Hey folks, welcome back to the Craft Show. Thanks for joining us as we continue our journey across Canada and around the world. Today we're going to speak to Scott from Cynical Ceramics, a local company out of Burnaby, British Columbia. So grab yourself a drink, some popcorn, and enjoy the show. All right, everyone. Today we have Scott with us from Cynical Ceramics. Thanks so much for joining us today.
No problem. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. I understand that Cynical Ceramics started out as a bit of a pandemic project. Is that the case?
Yeah, I'd say so. Basically, it was something I did years ago that I had a lot of, fun with, and basically started in high school, believe it or not. But it's kind of led up to a little bit of this. And then as soon as the pandemic hit, everything went to a little bit of a slowdown. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So I went ahead and bought a wheel and haven't looked back since. So it's been good. Yeah.
Awesome. So you said you started pottery in high school. So have you always been interested in creating?
Yeah, you know what? Even a year ago, I would have told you that I have no, not one artistic bone in my body. But I've, obviously had some interesting interactions with creating. There was actually a time last year where we took a couple weeks of furlough with work, and I decided out of no anywhere that I was like, I'm gonna make a painting, and I'm not an artist or a painter or whatever, and then maybe that just kind of started things. So yeah.
Amazing. And with pottery, I know there's many different types of pottery. Can you tell me about some of your favorite things to make?
Yeah, so I think when people think about pottery and ceramics, we've all got this view of what that looks like, right? Everybody's got their moms had that one mug or this set of mugs that they got back in the 70s or the 80s, and it has that look to it. And clay to me is a very versatile medium, right? You can basically create anything you want. And really what I try to do is create kind of more a modern brand and bring it into, today and make it a little bit more accessible. I do a lot of functional stuff. Some artists, they do, a lot of vases or pieces that they might put on display. But for me, it's more of like a functional, basis. So a lot of modern, designs, modern colors. Just trying to be creative in how I can stretch myself with that regard. So yeah.
Amazing. I was reading on your website a little bit about handles. Now, I know that when I look at a mug, I always wonder how the heck that handle stays on there. So, is that one of the most difficult parts of making a mug?
Yeah, it's tougher, right? Because I mean, you can throw, basically a mug is just a basic cylinder, right? So you could throw those all day, every day. The problem becomes that when you want to attach handles, not only does it have to be the right consistency, like the piece has to be dry enough. When you attach that handle on, you have to attach it in a certain way. If the handle that you're attaching on is a little bit more wet or a little more moist than the actual cup itself, it'll just crack off when it dries. So it's one of the things that I dislike doing a lot. And it wasn't until I sat down and said, you know what, there's nothing to do. I'm going to throw 100 mugs and I'm going to try and attach 100 handles. I think I've got a couple spots on my wall where I've thrown a mug across the room in frustration, but I feel like now I can do it in my sleep. So it's I've known potters that have been around for many, many years and they still hate doing it. So it's a little bit of finesse that goes along with it, the right time, the right consistency, all of the above. So it's difficult, but it's rewarding at the same time, right? One thing that people don't quite understand about just making in general is that, I threw this here and I'm going to show you this, but so this is a freshly thrown clay mug, right? So it's wet clay. It's still like I could crush this if I wanted to, right? When it gets fired for the first time, it turns into bisqueware. So that goes into a kiln at about 2100 degrees, and then you fire it again at the end once you've applied the glaze. So it's actually quite a long process, right?
Do you make all of your pottery right now from home?
Yeah, so there's many great studios in Vancouver or the Lower Mainland that are fantastic. The industry is quite, any one of these studios, they'll offer you memberships, but they all have wait lists for up to a year, right? So the the bonus is that I had done this in the past. So there's a lot of weird things that you don't think through when you want to get into this, right? So yes, I do everything out of my second bedroom in my small apartment in Burnaby, which is fantastic. Every time I tell people that, even at this farmer's market I was in the past weekend here, people just get shocked and surprised. And then I go to a studio and they're like, "How do you do that? I mean, we have to do this all in the studio." And it's you have to be very organized. You have to be extremely clean. There's things you have to take caution with as well, just because dry sanded clay can be actually, if you breathe that in, it could be detrimental to your health. So you have to think about all these things. If you had a bucket of water that had clay silt in it, if you kept dumping that down your sink, you'd be calling a plumber every second week as well. So there's a lot of small intricacies that you might not think about right out the gate, that if you didn't have prior knowledge, it would be difficult to do at home. So
Yeah, that's super interesting. How do you I know with the firing of the clay, like can you talk a little bit about that? Like what kind of temperatures are we looking at there?
yeah, so the firing of the clay is the one thing I can't do from home, right? So you have to have a kiln, which is gets up to ranges of about 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit to really finish a piece. So we're talking pieces of ceramic that would be absolutely red hot if you pulled them out in the moment, right? So that becomes difficult. Obviously on your patio of your apartment, it's not really an option. So there are a few places in the Lower Mainland that offer firing services. In my opinion, not enough. When I started getting into this, I said I can handle everything that there is possible, whether it's throwing, drying, making a studio in your house. The one thing that I just couldn't figure out was how am I going to fire my stuff. And there's some great city facilities. The city of Vancouver has a lot of rec centers that have kiln firings that you can rent, but they are long times waitlisted. They have a lot of stipulations, a lot of Burnaby here. There was a 6-page contract you have to sign because there's a lot that can go wrong in the kiln, right? So it's the one piece of it that is difficult to find, and I wish there was more places to go. But yeah, it's tough. So even transporting the material, right? When something is just thrown and it's just dried clay, it's at its most brittle state, right? You could just flick a pen at it and it would crumble into dust. So to pack that up to take it halfway across town becomes a little difficult.
So moving forward, do you think that eventually, do you want to turn this into a full-time career?
Yeah, it's difficult to say. I mean, I've been at my career that I'm in now for upwards of 15 years, and it's really really kind of interesting because you do something like that, you work for another company, and obviously I'm passionate about it. I'm in leadership. I lead many teams, and it's fantastic. But then you go ahead and you try out something like this, right? You venture into the world of what you actually like to do. And I mean, there's times on a Saturday where I could sit down and be on my wheel for 10 hours and not even blink an eye. And you hear about people who always say, if you do what you want, it never feels like you work a day in your life, right? I always used to scoff at that a little bit because you're like, oh, okay, what percentage of the population actually achieves that, right? But then you kind of get across something like this, and once you get into this industry, the people and the in the Lower Mainland here have just been so welcoming to other people who work in the ceramics industry. And yeah, I mean, long story short, the place that I go to fire my stuff is going out of business, and there's a couple things on the horizon. A few people I'm discussing with right now about what happens next, and do I create a business venture that I could actually take forward and do going forward? So it's exciting.
So could you tell me about a few of the things that you really like to make, your favorite pieces?
Yeah, so getting into this, everybody had the one or two things. I want to make more of this, or I want to make that, and I kind of made different things as in the past, but everybody makes bowls. That's the one thing that everybody gets into, right? And like we talked about earlier, I hated making handles. So when I started this, I was like, mugs are definitely not in the picture. But honestly, I think now I love making mugs, anything functional, right? And I think the making a mug, everybody wonders why potters make so many mugs. And I think that the mug, a mug is the one thing that people seem to have an intimate relationship with, right? Like, You go get your coffee every morning, you grab the handle, it's your mug, you know what you're talking about. If you live with a partner and they take your mug, you may not say it out loud, but you subconsciously are thinking, that's my mug, why are you touching that, right? So that, you know, a lot of potters make mugs because people seem to have an intimate connection with that product, right? I do like making bowls. I've experimented with, you know, lidded containers are fantastic. Sometimes you have to wonder what they can be used for, but they're a challenge to make, and really promising piece of work at the end. So, you know, for me, it's more about functional stuff, right? So, you know, plates, bowls, you know, mugs, those kinds of things. And, you know, I'll leave the pretty vases and all that kind of stuff to my counterparts who are more experienced with that kind of stuff, right?
Nice. I have to totally agree with you on the mugs because there's two mugs in my cupboard that I go to every morning for my coffee, and they both have you know, a story behind them. One of them my aunt gave me many years ago, and it has a handle missing now because I dropped it, but I still cling to it and use it. So I really like that. That's such a true answer for sure. I notice you have a ton of pottery and product behind you. If some of our viewers, or hopefully all of our viewers, are interested in connecting and buying some of your products, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, so my Instagram page is where I just kind of dump, you know, the void of everything that I'm doing on there, which is Cynical Ceramics Co. So that's my Instagram account, and my website is now live. So it's www.cynicalceramicsco.com. So nice and easy. It's all in the same place. But you know, I was lucky enough to launch last month, and I had a really successful first weekend. So just blown away that people would be, you know, willing to pay and own a piece of something that I've actually made with my two hands. So really fantastic stuff.
Amazing. And do you have any special offers that you might like to offer our viewers today?
I'll throw one out there. I'll give 15% off, and the promo code. So Cynical Ceramics, it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek name, right? I'm a sarcastic guy. I don't take things too seriously. So so the code to go to my site and get 15% off is half empty 21. So you plug that in on your checkout and you'll get 15% off your order. So lots coming up, and a couple of future drops coming up here soon. So working on some stuff now.
Nice. And you ship anywhere in North America, or?
Yeah, anywhere in North America so far. You know, I haven't got anything from overseas yet, but we'll see what happens, right? It depends on how desperate people are for a nice mug. So
Thanks so much for joining us today, Scott. I know I'll be going on and ordering something. I need another mug for my morning coffee. So
perfect. Well, I got another drop coming up soon that I'm sure there's something you'll like.
awesome. Thanks so much, Scott, for being with us today, and thank you at home as well, our lovely Craft Show viewers. If you'd like to buy some of Scott's products, use the code that he's provided, and check out the website in the description box below. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, and why not subscribe? Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day, or morning, or evening, wherever you are. And we'll see you next time on the Craft Show.
Dance with me.
You can go to
Music is made.